Welcome back to our YouTube channel here on Five Reasons Sports Network. We continue with our Messi and Co coverage. Full day with Inter Miami, starting very early in the morning with Austin Robillard at Drive Pink Stadium. Now he's back at home. He can sit down and talk about what happened not only there, but also after in a meeting that some of the media outlets had with Jorge Mas, owner of Inter Miami. And we're going to be going over uh, three different things that he touched on, at least, that are very important. Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez, Messi's debut, among other subjects that we're going to be discussing here on this special edition of Messi and Co. Austin, how are you? You're probably tired, but you're probably excited as well.
Yeah, it's been a long day. Been up since about 6 a.m. Got to training at 7:30. Didn't get to start until 9. Saw the 150, 200 media members there, and then we had the sit down roundtable with owners Jorge Mas and David Beckham, which was great. There's so much to be excited for with this club. Obviously, with Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets in training today, and as you slightly mentioned there, a couple more names are possibly on the way as per the owners, Jorge Mas and David Beckham in the club. What a moment in South Florida sports history. It really can't go understated. And if anybody else is excited as I am and as excited as those fans were on the street, if you saw our live coverage earlier, there were about 100, 150 people as well, just waiting possibly to see Lionel Messi at the training facility. It started to rain as well, Alejandro. I don't think I told you this yet, but it started to rain, and as soon as I was leaving the facility, I had seen the puddles and everything like that, and I looked over to the side. It's probably 11:30, 11:45 by the time I was getting ready to leave, and those guys were still there. They were still there waiting for Lionel Messi through the rain. It went all the way up until about noon, and then eventually people started to leave a little bit, but man, you can tell that the excitement in South Florida for soccer, especially, is at an all-time high.
Yeah, for sure. And we have more updates for you guys. So you came here for more news related to Inter Miami, and we're going to give them to you. And let's start with what's already confirmed. And we have big news. So talk to me a little bit about what's going on with Jordi Alba. We reported that that deal was done, as the Miami Herald did before us. And then it was like a total silence about this subject. We thought he was going to be part of this unveil that happened on Sunday night, but he never showed up. No mention of Jordi Alba until today. So what happened with him?
So yeah, he was supposed to be part of the unveil. I think that was something that initially was the plan, but his wife, as reported by Michelle Coffin of the Miami Herald, was pregnant at the time. She might still be pregnant. She might not be. I don't know. But they wanted to have their kid in Spain, and they were just waiting for the baby to come on out to this beautiful world. So that's all that they were waiting for. Jorge Mas confirmed to media members today that Jordi Alba would sign the contract today, meaning that the announcement could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. I don't think Jordi Alba will be ready for the game on Friday, but I do know that the signing is close to complete, if not complete already. And that is just another huge marquee signing for Inter Miami to bolster their roster. Sergio Busquets, Lionel Messi, and Jordi Alba all together now. The trio is back from Barcelona here in Miami, and a lot to be excited for. But it was great to hear from the owners, Jorge Mas and David Beckham, that was over the line. They were confident in what they were saying, and the deal should be done very, very soon.
Cool. So Jordi Alba, as we were reporting a couple of weeks ago, Austin had information about it as well. They knew that the talks were very advanced for weeks already. So now it's just confirmed, and we'll see when he's going to be able to join the team, start training, and then participate in any of the upcoming Inter Miami games. This name has been thrown out there. It's been denied. It's been then maybe brought up again once, two, three, four times. But Jorge Mas talked about him today, and this is Luis Suarez. So what's going on with Luis Suarez, the Uruguayan forward? He's playing at Grêmio right now in Brazil, and he was one of the best friends of Messi, coming from Barcelona. And this is Messi and Co. So Luis Suarez was one of those names that was mentioned beforehand when all of this was confirmed, the news that Lionel Messi was coming to Miami. So what's going on? What's the latest update? And what did Jorge Mas say about Luis Suarez and the possibility of having him here in Miami?
So I don't have any direct quotes from Jorge himself, as unfortunately for myself, but not for anybody else, it was in Spanish. But I did get the gist of it. And Jorge Mas, when asked about Luis Suarez, was very keen on, saying he is a Gremio player. He is under contract with Gremio, and they are not going to necessarily speak on the rumors of him coming to Inter Miami. There are a lot of reports out there, as Alejandro mentioned, whether it's approved or denied, and can the deal happen or fall through, whatever. That was not affecting Jorge Mas in this little sit down that we had. He was confident in the fact that he's a contracted player under Gremio, and he's not going to speak about a contracted player. And he did say this though. He said if Luis Suarez wants to go ahead and speak about it freely, then he can do that. That's his choice, and he wouldn't mind. And Jorge Mas also said that if Luis Suarez would go out of contract, that is a player that they are interested in. Now, how that works logistically under the rules, I'd have to look into it. It depends on how he ends up coming in. I can imagine it would have to be a TAM signing, considering Jorge Mas went ahead and confirmed some other signings that has to do with Leonardo Campana's DP status. We'll get into that in just a second. But as for Luis Suarez right now and the ownership, they are not set on a deal. There is no deal set in place at the moment because of the contract with Gremio. Miami will display interest in the player if he is to leave and somehow get this contract from Gremio away. I have heard that December, from multiple reports, is a possible time frame for Suarez to join because of the contract running out then. But as for the summer, I'm not going to go ahead and say that it's far-fetched, Alejandro, but I am going to say that right now it's not really something to speak about as he's under contract with the Brazilian side.
Yeah, I was just checking about the details on his contract. He's under contract until December of 2024, so he will have to break that down. I mean, just finish that contract with Gremio beforehand and make some sort of arrangement, and then become a free agent to come here to Miami.
Right. If he does not become a free agent and Gremio have an asking price, it's going to be really difficult for Miami to fit him under the roster rules, because in MLS, if there is a transfer fee, the transfer fee is added to the budget. And for a player like Luis Suarez, who's going to demand a decent salary, granted, Miami have gotten players on discounts, right? Jordi Alba coming in under 1.6 million, 1.65 million, whatever the number is. That was great, but he was also a free agent signing. So there was no transfer budget or transfer fee to be amortized over the length of Jordi Alba's deal that would add him over that 1.65. There's 3 DPs on the roster right now. You have Lionel Messi, you have Sergio Busquets, and you have Leonardo Campana. Rodolfo Pizarro shipped out to Athens, and then Gregory bought down simultaneously with the signing of Lionel Messi. So now that you have these 3 guys, you have to be very decisive in what you're going to do under these contract rules, because you can't bring in another guy and you can't run into another Matuidi situation unless MLS want to go ahead and expand rules just for Inter Miami. It's not going to happen.
I mean, they could.
It's happened. It is granted. It's happened before with LA Galaxy back in 2007. Exactly. And that's who spoke today as well. But if there is a transfer fee in place, then it's going to be a lot harder for Miami to bring in Luis Suarez. So that's something to look forward to, or at least keep eyes on. Will the contract be terminated with Luis Suarez and Gremio? And if so, then Miami will probably try and swoop in. But for right now, knowing that his contract is until 2024, it makes it a little bit more difficult for the player to be brought to South Florida.
Right. Leo has a question here. Could we fit Suarez even if he was bought out? We have 3 players already who I assume have pretty large wages.
Yeah, it would have to be under the Jordi Alba kind of thing. It has to be 1.65 million or less, unless they want to buy down Leonardo Campana, which would be an awful decision. And I'll tell you why. If they buy down Leonardo Campana and bring in Suarez as a big money DP, then they lose the ability to sign 3 U22 initiative players that only count, no matter how much they're paid, for $150,000 or $200,000 under the cap. Jorge Mas mentioned today, which is the next topic that we'll get into, about 2 names already, Diego Gomez and Facundo Farias, the Paraguayan and the Argentinian respectively, there's deals set in place. For Diego Gomez, he's getting ready to sign the contract. For Facundo, they said that the clubs have come to a verbal agreement. So with those guys coming in for very high transfer fees, I think it's going to be a combined $7 or $8 million that Inter Miami are going to have to spend. that alone, depending on the length of the deal, is going to put them as big money signings, whether their salary is that high or not, because they have to amortize that transfer fee. So keeping Leonardo Campana as a DP is essential for Miami's roster build right now, and bringing in someone like Luis Suarez to replace Campana does not make sense. So there needs to be a buyout between Suarez and Gremio for this to happen. I don't know any other roster mechanism that Miami or even Gremio could use besides that for him to come to South Florida. So if that's the case, then it can happen. But outside of that, I don't see it as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, it has to go very bad in Brazil, and maybe Suarez and Grêmio can reach a deal and just terminate that contract in December, and then he can come as a free agent next season, and then we can talk about it again and again. But for now, that's not the reality of things. That's not what's happening right now. We saw Messi with Joseph today, Joseph Martinez. That's his striker right now, along with Leonardo Campana. So for now, let's just think like that's going to be the team that's going to be playing for Inter Miami. Finally, Jorge Mas also talked about Messi's debut on Friday. What did he say about Lionel Messi's debut against Cruz Azul on Friday night?
Well, we definitely learned that it's going to happen. Other than Messi confirming it on his Instagram after the presentation on Sunday, where he said, "See you on Friday" with a winky face, it's going to happen. Jorge Mas and David Beckham are sure of that. Now, how it happens and for how long, nobody knows. It's up to Tata Martino, it's up to the coaching staff, and it's up to Lionel Messi himself as to whether or not he will start. He will play 90 minutes, he will play 60 minutes, he'll play 30 minutes, he'll play 15. That is completely unknown. And they are trusting the coaching staff with this decision. They're trusting Lionel Messi with this decision. They noted that he was just on vacation for quite some time, spending time with his family. Granted, he deserved the vacation. So coming back, finally getting in training this week, at least a full participant in training this week. There's only a couple days until the match. If it was a Saturday or Sunday game, it might be a little bit of a different outlook. But if today really was the first training for Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets, as the tunnel pictures represent, then 3 full days of training, along with everything else that's going on right now and the media access that they are having to provide and everything like that, it might not be enough time to be fully fit for a 90-minute match, especially in a CONCACAF game that can get extremely physical. So that is something to look for. I don't know if Tata Martino will start Lionel Messi. Nobody knows if Tata Martino will start Lionel Messi, and it's something to keep eyes on. I'm obviously, for the fans' sake, hoping that Lionel Messi can play as long as possible, because I think that it's really needed for Miami to pick up points in the Leagues Cup here right early on so they can advance to the knockout stage. And if they do, then they can play more games going into August before the August 20th match when MLS restarts, and maybe pick up a trophy early on in both Lionel Messi's, Sergio Busquets' early Miami career.
So my experience covering Barcelona and Lionel Messi tells me that once he starts a game, he doesn't like to come off, right? He doesn't like to come out and be replaced during the game. So my guess would be he's going to play in the second half, and then finish the game, because he loves just finishing the game. If he starts it, he's not going to. So that's how he's done it before. Maybe now it's a different stage in his career, and maybe he's seeing it differently. But we saw what happened at PSG. It's a totally different atmosphere and what's going on inside of the clubhouse and everything. But he doesn't like, once he starts the game, it's just he wants to finish it. That's how he's built, and that's how he's been all throughout his career with Argentina and whatever club he's playing for.
I don't think that that's going to change either. Like I really don't. And Jorge and David were saying a lot today about how they still feel like Lionel Messi is hungry. Like, even despite the fact, David Beckham said this, despite the fact that he has won everything there almost is to win in football, seeing them in training today, they still looked hungry. And those are the only kinds of players that they're trying to bring. Now, even if Lionel Messi was, completely full and not wanting to eat any more food, he would still come to Inter Miami no matter what. I think they would get the deal over the line. But Jorge Mas and David Beckham assured the media today that both of them, Busquets and Messi, were still hungry to play, fight, and win for this club. And, the fact that there are trophies on the line here, multiple of them at that, especially early on for both of these guys and for the club, it's a huge talking point, and it's a huge focal point for Tata Martino, his coaching staff, and the ownership. And I think that they're going to take that pretty seriously.
And we have to remember, Messi is in that fight with Dani Alves to trying to get the most tournaments won. So this is a good opportunity for him to just keep winning and keep adding up, right, to that record of most championships won with different clubs and national teams. So there you go. We'll see what happens. We're going to have all the coverage here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel, also on our podcast feed. We're going to put this on the podcast as well, just for all of you guys that are following our job. Thank you, Austin. He was there at Drive Pink Stadium. We're both going to be there on Friday to cover what's going to go on before that Cruz Azul match, during the match, and also after the match. So be ready for a lot of content, not only from Messi, but also of what's going on with Inter Miami. Let's finish with answering a couple of questions here.
Sure.
I'm going to put here on the screen that we have. Leo was asking where you can watch the games.
Yeah, all of the MLS regular season games and the Leagues Cup games will be on Apple TV, Apple TV Plus, the season pass, whatever you want to call it. You have to buy a package if you're a season ticket holder. You've already gotten the package. And then with the U.S. Open Cup, I believe it's just going to be streamed on a local network, if I'm not mistaken. It could be on ESPN. It could be on Bleacher Report. It could be on YouTube. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do. CBS Sports Golazo, actually, I think is where it ends up going. So the CBS Sports Golazo show, in the CBS Sports Network, you can get the U.S. Open Cup matches. They'll have a semifinal and possibly a final. And that's something else I should add, is that if Miami go ahead and beat Cincinnati in late August, Alejandro, Jorge Mas confirmed that if they do that, that Miami will play a final in a big venue. It does not matter if it's at home, and it does not matter if it's away. If it is at home, that means the Houston Dynamo have beaten Real Salt Lake, and they will look to go to Hard Rock Stadium for a U.S. Open Cup final. If Real Salt Lake beat Houston Dynamo, they have the hosting rights, and Miami would travel there if they win their match, of course. And they said that they would talk with Real Salt Lake about hosting it in a bigger venue than where Salt Lake play now. So no matter what, a cup final for Lionel Messi means big things, and the ownership group knows that, and they're going to do what they can. But Jorge Mas also did confirm that for the Leagues Cup and for the rest of the regular MLS season, the games will be played in the one and only Drive Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay, so that's why they added the seats. It still is, in my opinion, a great location. It might be a little biased because it's 10 minutes away from home, but little update on the stadium stuff, because I know it was a huge talking point when Messi first signed. But Jorge Mas said he's got a great connection with the people over there at Hard Rock and would make it happen for a final. But for the rest of the regular MLS season, it's going to be at Drive Pink.
Yeah, and remember, I mean, it's not only about you wanting to do it, but the Hard Rocks, it's a venue for not only Dolphins and Hurricanes, but also concerts and different types of events. So take that into consideration. And the new stadium, we don't know when that's going to actually happen. I don't think Messi's ever going to play a game in that new stadium because nothing has been done to build a new stadium like it was supposed to happen. But it's Miami. We do what we can, and that's how we roll, I guess. so thank you very much for joining us today. Remember, visit mosaics.com. They are our sponsor, official sponsor here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel and podcast for Messi and Co. Thank you, Austin, for that great job, and I'll see you on Friday. But I'm sure we're gonna have something going on come up before Friday, so stay tuned. We're gonna be back, and we're gonna have more information for you guys.
Hopefully, it's another Publix run for Lionel Messi.
Hopefully, so we can get to see him practicing with his Inter Miami teammates. Have a good one, and we will see you sometime soon. Bye bye.